What's up, you guys? I finally decided to make this video after a long time of procrastinating. I have been getting a lot of really positive comments and messages of people asking me about some videos that I mixed recently, particularly asking about the drums and more specifically the snare. So I finally decided to just make a video about some of the things that I do. I have learned a lot from really talented people. So this is kind of the sum of all the parts. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into Pro Tools and let's look at the drums. So I will say, as something to keep in mind, there's obviously a lot more downstream mix processing happening that has a pretty significant impact on the drums. I won't go into all that here. That may be something I can cover in another video. Also, if you are interested in doing a more full mix walkthrough, or if you have any specific things that you want to look at, feel free to message me. You can find my Instagram link in the description. Just send me a message. I have recently started doing some one-on-one virtual mix consultations. Please feel free to reach out to me. Let's connect and let's talk mixing. There's a lot of things in the drum bus as well as the mix bus and especially the mastering chain that have a pretty direct impact on what the drums sound like. But for now, we're just going to look at the actual drum inputs. So let's start with the snare top. Here's what it sounds like with no processing. All right, so it sounds like a snare. We just need some work. So the first thing in the chain is this Plugin Alliance SSL channel strip. I'm doing some high pass and low pass, pretty heavy compression, a gate, it's just to get rid of some bleed, EQ, and then I had to duck down the output a little bit. It probably just got a little bit too loud. So here's what that sounds like. Okay, instantly much fatter, tonally a lot better, way less bleed. So we already like where this is going. All right, the next thing in the chain is actually another channel strip. I like the UAD Vision channel strip. I wanted to use this because I wanted just a little more beef from the snare, so I added just a little bit of 100. And then I also added some more compression. I really like the way the API compression sounds on drums. And it looks like I added just a touch more of a gate as well, just to help a little bit more managing that bleed. Here's what that sounds like. All right, the next thing is this black box saturation. I love this plugin for snare. It sounds absolutely amazing. Here's what this sounds like. It instantly just makes the snare sound more splat-y. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. I'm also just using a preset on this plugin. I really liked how this sounded, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time trying to fine-tune a saturation sound. I just wanted some saturation on the snare, and this sounded good, so I kept it. All right, and then the last thing on the list is this Brainworks limiter. All I'm doing is just ducking down a little bit of the transient to save some headroom for the mix further downstream, but without making the snare sound smaller or quieter. So here's what that sounds like. It's not doing much, just a dB or two. All right, let's look at the snare bottom now. This is with no processing. The first thing, again, is a SSL channel strip, high pass and low pass, compression, gate, EQ. Here's what that sounds like. Okay. Okay, the next thing on the list with the snare bottom is, once again, the black box saturation. I found another preset for this one. It's just called snare bottom, and I liked how it sounded, so I kept it. Here's what this sounds like. All right, the next thing I put on here was a transient shaper, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't even really know why. I have been experimenting a lot recently and trying new things. Sometimes I open up a session and I find something that I'm like, why did I do that? I'm not even really sure why I have this on there, but it made it in, so it's gonna go in the video. All right, it just goes to show you, you don't have to do everything right. All right, and then the last thing on here is the Plugin Alliance limiter. This is hitting pretty heavy because I wanted to not compete with the transient of the snare top and get a nice fat sustain out of the snare bottom. Here's what this sounds like. Okay, so it's hitting probably almost 10 dB of gain reduction. All right, so here's what the snare top and bottom sound like together. Okay, that's getting to where I want it to be. The last thing I'm gonna do in snare world is add a trigger. I used to rely very heavily on triggers, and I started trying to move away from that and lean more on the natural characteristics of the snare. I still like to layer a trigger in there for consistency, just to give the snare a little extra oomph and a little bit more dynamic control. I'm using a sample from That Worship Sound. This is, I think, one of the Bethel Ludwig samples, and it sounds like this. Great sounding sample. I pitched it up significantly because originally the sample was really deep, which is fine, but it didn't match very well with the way our drummer tuned his snare. So here's what all three of those channels sound like together. And that's pretty much getting to where I want it. So now let's listen to all the drums together in context. This is without the sample, just so we can hear what that sounds like. So honestly, the sample's probably not even totally necessary, but like I said, I feel like it gives a little extra oomph to the snare, a little extra smack, and more dynamic consistency, so I like to keep it in there. All right, so that is pretty much it as far as the snare goes. Like I said, if you guys are interested in some of the other stuff I'm doing, or if you'd like to just walk through a mix, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to jump on a call with you and we can talk mixing. I hope this has helped you guys. I hope that it is useful information. Leave any comments. Let me know if you have any questions, if you'd like to see any other videos about a specific topic. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.